Hello and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve podcast. Today's guest is Elberace, aka Gay Elvis. Welcome back to the show. How you doing?
Good, thank you. I like the way you say Elberace. It's fab. It's normally Elberace.
Elberace. I don't know, man. I say, do you know the amount of times I've done like an intro and then someone's like really politely like, "You got my name wrong," and I'm like,
yeah, yeah.
There was a lot of sometimes I ask people ahead of time. I'm like, "How do you say that?" Other times I just go for it, but I suppose it depends how brave I am, really.
Yeah, I'm liking the new haircut, by the way, as well.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
yeah. You must feel a bit naked, and it's a bit like Samson having his hair cut off. Like
I don't feel any different. Everyone has asked me that. No, everyone asked me that question, and to be honest, I mean, I suppose it feels different. I don't know. The only thing I think that you physically notice is like the way you carry yourself a little bit, because obviously, if you have longer hair, it's weighted. So there's that, but nothing's really changed. I think maybe I'm dressing a bit smarter now because you kind of roll with what you've got, and obviously like I don't have money to go get nice clothes and stuff. Pretty much everything I own is either secondhand, like given to me, or like like one Christmas I got this or something. It's kind of that deal. But I make the best with what I have, and I figured, kind of like they do in the wrestling industry, like whenever you have like a change, like you lean into it, but like I'm not any different. You know what I mean? It's just, I think the only thing that's really different now is this is like my last kind of hurrah on trying to do acting, because I was always told you're too niche. Your look is too out there, like it's difficult to place you. And I'm like, look, I'm not a casting director, but like I could have a go. Do you know what I mean? Like vampire, I don't know, something from Bridgerton, Viking. Like, come on, man. Like you lean into what the thing is, And it was always, oh, well, we're putting you forward for these commercials, but your hair's too long, or you look like you're a heavy metal guy or something. And it's like,
yeah, I mean, we'll come on to that as we talk, because there's some stuff around that I'm going to go on to when we talk about arthritis and the effects of that on people, and certainly on performers. My story it's very sudden. And it's been a very sudden thing for me, and how I'm trying to strategize and find value and ways out of that, with a progressive degenerate disease that often gets, unless you have it, just gets sidelined. People just think, oh, you've got stiff joints. Do you know what I mean? So casting, it's interesting you're talking about casting and stuff. So there might be some stuff later on, Christian, that you think, that actually might make some sense to you in terms of as a performer, because the performing gene is a very hungry. You live in the life of hunger with it. You're constantly searching and constantly hungry, and
finally, again, someone who gets me.
Sorry, but it's a very hungry kind of thing, and as a performer, you have to be so self-sufficient, and I don't know any other profession where people think they know, and
everyone's got the answers.
I wouldn't dream telling a dentist what he should be doing with his career, or how many teeth did you fill today then? Oh, what you did a root filling, and you constantly have to prove.
Have you not made GP yet? Maybe you should consider a different career.
Yeah. Or I had years ago, I was in a taxi, and a taxi driver said to me, I was having to do some looping on a film that I'd been in, and it was about a year later, and I couldn't remember the script or the character, and I'm in the back of the cab just going over it all. It was just a very small bit of looping I had to do, and the cab driver went, "What's that you're looking at, mate?" I said, "Oh, it's a script." "You're an actor then?" I said, "Yeah, I am. I'm a performer." "Oh, you want to do what my mate does? You want to do what my mate does? You want to get yourself on EastEnders. My mate's on EastEnders." And I said, "Well, I'd love a job on EastEnders." I said, I'd love regular work like that." I said, "What does he do?" "Well, if you watch when they're in the market, he's on the third barrow from the back." And I'm like, "Right, okay, so is he an actor or an extra?" I said,
Ooh.
"Neither's less than the other. Acting is, you go to college for that." And he's going on anyway. And I thought, oh God, how many times do you have to hear this conversation? And it's very insulting. And as I got out the car, just as the door was closing, he went, "Don't worry, mate, you'll get your lucky break."
He meant well. He meant
I
well.
walked to the passenger window and knocked on the window. I said, "Wind the window down a second." I said, "What do you mean, my break?" I said, "What do you mean, my break?" I said, "An actor's career is a series of breaks. It's a series of breaks." I said, "Getting a casting is a lucky break. I said, "What are you judging me on? Are you judging me on the fact that you don't recognise me? That I've not been in a big film or something like that?" I said, "Acting's a job. And you're constantly having to explain yourself to people what you've done." I just find it tedious, really. It's an insecure job, and not everybody breaks through at a particular time. But as long as you're in the game, you are what it is.
I mean, you've kind of hit on something pretty big for me, to be honest. I spoke about this on the podcast recently, and someone came at me. And if you're watching, listening, it was cool. I understand why you were annoyed. So I said, it's the question every actor hates. What have you been in? What would I know you from? And I said it undermines everything you've done up to this point. And their point was, well, it's quite funny actually. If you asked a chef what's your favorite meal to make, they wouldn't get their knickers in a twist. So what's your fucking problem, kind of thing. And I was like, all right, I see where he's coming from, but at the same time, what I'm saying is true as well. Like, most people, when they ask you that question, they're not gonna go and actually check out your. I'd say like 0.1% will actually go in and look at like the body of work that I've done over the last 7 years of acting, right? But most people, and again, there's different categories to this. There's people who are just purely ignorant and just don't know, and they mean well. Maybe like that cab driver, I'm sure he meant well, Then there's people that are deliberately rude, and this is kind of more what I'm driving at. It's the status thing, especially these days. How many followers do you have? I'm sure you've had this with the gig circuit as well, every now and again. Like, because I know I have, where like someone from America reached out to me the other day that I know for a friend, and they were like, "Oh, could you help me get a gig? Like, can you tell me, like, etc." And I was like, "Listen, buddy, I'm the wrong person to ask, because when I ask for gigs, they're like, 'Can you get 50 people on a random Tuesday?' And I'm like, 'No, I can't. No, I'm lucky if I can have one friend turn up.' That's the reality of trying to do. And I can't tell you how many amazing musicians I've seen recently, where like there's just no one there. And they might be big online, but there's no one there, And I don't know what to make of that. I don't know what that means. But I see them, and I see how talented they are. And, if I had a record label, I'd sign them now. If this was 20 years ago, they'd be huge. Like, I don't know what to make of modern society, especially when it comes to this question, this idea of status and what makes a performer, because there's far more, quote unquote, like, I'm not going to say unsuccessful, because I think if you're making a living, you are a success. But there's plenty of people like myself not making any money, working, broke and struggling on minimum wage, and then there's a greater majority who are in paid work but just, you know, whatever, haven't got their big break. But like, not all of us are looking for that either, you know. So there's different levels to this.
I think it's about knowing who you are and knowing what you want. I mean, I have a friend of mine. I went to drama school with Tom, and Tom, he's a good actor, but success isn't based on being a good actor.
Nope.
At all.
You're right.
And it's not. And Tom was really struggling, really struggling, you know, doing Hamlet above a pub with one person there opening a packet of crisps, you know, during a big soliloquy and stuff like that. But Tom is an actor, and it's about his creativity. It's not about fame and fortune and this, that, and the other. Anyway, Tom took a job understudying, I think it was Rowan Atkinson in Oliver. And again, you know, you get told as an actor, never take understudy work, you'll never do anything else. Everybody hates you. You're turning up every night, getting ready. You never get to go on stage. And if you do, you get it wrong. And, you know, we all know in big shows, generally, there's not a huge amount of rehearsal for understudies. You watch. It's a really difficult job to do. I wouldn't want to do it. But Tom loves
Give my ignorance,
acting.
but I see it. What do you actually do? What is an understudy?
You're in insurance. Do you know what I mean?
So, like, if Rowan Atkinson, like, I don't know, he tripped, he fell, God forbid.
If he was off sick or he got sick, Tom would go on instead of him as an understudy.
That's what I thought it was, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't
So an
sure.
understudy's a reserve. You know, generally people aren't going to pull out of a show. They're going to have something really serious on them, especially the leading star of the show. And Tom was understudying him. But Tom took that job, I think, for a couple of reasons. One was financial, and two was because Tom is an artist. He's an actor, and he applies himself professionally to things that he does, and the job came up. Anyway, he did that show. I mean, he was impoverished, Tom. And if he's watching this, sorry, Tom, telling your biographer, when they did an understudy run of the shows. People came in to watch it. So it was on an afternoon. It's closed. It's just you can invite friends in and this and that. There happened to be an agent there who happened to have worked for a big agency, setting up on his own, saw Tom, took Tom. Tom finished the understudy run, and divine providence, what would happen is up at the Lowry Theatre in Manchester, they're doing a production of Oliver. And the lead falls sick, who's doing Fagin, which is the part that Tom's understudied. So they whisked Tom up there, and he stepped in and did finish the run as a lead in a show, you know, provincial theatre, but main theatre, playing Fagin. So he then comes back to London, and that then lifts him up a level. The agent is getting him in to see things. Anyway, he goes for an audition for... was a George Feydeau play called A Flea in Her Ear. It was a farce from early 1900s, but they did an updated version of it called One Man, Two Guvnors with James Corden in. And Tom's brilliant physical theatre, and it was a very small part, and it was physical theatre, and he played an old waiter that had one or two little scenes that, you know, in a grabby old, you know, two soups kind of thing, that fell over and fell downstairs and this, that, and the other. All the reviews pulled him out. Every single review, you looked in the Standard, they'd be reviewing it saying Tom Eden, brilliant physical comedy. So the writers started to make his part a little bit bigger. So, you know, there was more of him sort of walking past and falling down and this, that, and that. And he was hilarious in it with such a small part. The run finished, you know, the cast change. They take it to Broadway. Tom goes to Broadway with it. Suddenly, he's the toast of Broadway. He's he's nominated and on the list for a Tony Award for Best Supporting Actor. Do you know what I mean? Then he comes back to London. He didn't get it. He didn't win it. He won the Drama Desk Award. He came back to London. He's been working in, he's West End all the time. Then last year, he was up for his Best Supporting Actor for an Olivier Award for Waiting for Godot. And now he's in Paddington. I'm going to go and see him in it next week.
Mad.
But the thing is that story, Tom essentially is the same person. He's the same person, and he is working because he's an actor, not because of he want obviously finances, but he works because Tom is a true actor. It's what he is, and it's what he does, and he's no different. I go and meet him for lunch, and he's totally the same as he ever was, and do you know what I mean? And that's the truth of acting, and anyone can get a break at that kind of thing happen at any time at all. So I always say, don't give up on your dream. If it's your ambition that you're giving up on, that's a different thing. But if you're truly an actor and a performer, and this is again going back to my osteoarthritis, this is what I'm struggling with: is what's being taken away from me in terms of who I am and, how I've lived my life, sacrifices I've made, and my creativity. That's not something you can take and compartmentalize. It's a part of your spirit and who you are. So I'd say to you, don't give up acting. Maybe look at your ambition. And think, okay, don't let your ambitions be a source and a root of pain for you. Let them be a driving force. For sure, have your ambitions, but you've got to keep plodding along and doing what you do, because that's part of who you are.
Wise word. When was the last time you were on stage?
So I haven't performed since a year and a half ago, 2024. I know, because what we're doing is arthritis. I just thought it was an interesting subject because
just curious about that journey from that point.
Yeah, I've never been in a position in my life when, how old are you? If you don't mind me asking.
32. I'm about to turn.
Okay, so you're young. No,
matter of perspective.
Well,
I don't feel it anymore. Let's put it that way.
I noticed, so when I look at a 40-year-old now, I think they're young. I'm 58.
Wow, you look great for your age.
Oh, thank you. So, but you get to a stage in life where you suddenly go, 65 is when you're starting to go, that's when they say roughly you start the early stages of old age. So I'm at the back end of late middle age. Middle age. And you go through life, and then suddenly you get something and you think, this is the first thing I've had that's never going to go away. And what happened with me, Christian, was, so, I mean, you've seen videos of me performing my Gay Elvis act, and it's very high energy. And I used to come off stage, people used to go, my God, you've got really good cardio. I used to think, I mean, at 56, I was doing that. And I'm thinking, I'm like, I'm running upstairs 3 at a time, this, that, and the other. 2 days before we went into the first lockdown, so I'm a hairdresser as well. I work freelance as a hairdresser, and I have my own little space. And people were coming in to get their hair done just before we went into the first lockdown. And it was 2 days before, and I just done my last client, and I was sweeping up, and I got a pain in my right knee. And I spent the whole of the first lockdown with a swollen knee that I couldn't walk on. And I went through, obviously I couldn't get appointments with the NHS and stuff. And then when we came out the lockdowns, I went to hospitals and stuff like that. So in January 2022, I had meniscus surgery on my right knee. So that's to clear up the cartilage on the right knee. And then I got back to performing, and I was doing it. But the other thing as well with those lockdowns is they came at really weird times. I think everybody lost something. We all lost something. When you look at a life, if I live to be 100, and you look at, say, 5 years, which really the pandemic for me has affected, you think that's actually quite a large percentage of time. And in industries that work on momentum and reputation, it's devastating. And then just for me specifically, this is my loss in it, is that I had just gone through my midlife crisis. And then coming out of that and you're thinking, right, okay. And you're just getting going. And then suddenly you get these lockdowns, which suddenly stop everything. So you're suddenly like, shit. And then there's a lot of people in their 50s that they're saying are having a second midlife crisis because of the lockdowns. Because you've gone through your midlife crisis, you've adjusted to where your life is at. I mean, I have to say, for me, this stage of my life is the hardest stage of my life I've ever gone through. It really, really is a very difficult stage of your life when suddenly, physically, things are being taken away from you. It really, really is a difficult stage of life. But so, and especially as well for women. I mean, you think of women that may have gone through the menopause and they're just getting their life round, and then suddenly you've got this time when you can't do anything. So it's like, stop. And I think, when you're younger, a year is a long, long time. But when you get older, the years go very, very quickly. And the degeneration in your body happens very quickly. And so, I was 2-3 years ago, the person running up 3 stairs at a time, really energetic. And so what happened was I was performing and sort of thinking, yeah, okay, physically I'm not rebounding so quick, but that's fine. I just space out my bookings and stuff. I was on stage at Southampton Pride, and 18,000 people in the audience, and I'm giving it what I've got. And when I came off, someone was videoing me, and they showed me the video. They were laughing. They said, look, when you come off the stage, you're limping. And I got home, and within the next 2 days, my knee was so swollen, I couldn't weight bear. So I calling my doctor and trying to get help with it. And of course, I get referred to the MSK clinic. This is taking weeks, and then they're offering me a phone conversation. So I said, no, I don't want that. I went and had injections in my knee and ultrasound guided, and he showed me, he said, you've got a really bad injury in there and bad arthritis. And then looked at my other knee and said, yeah, you're going to have problems with the other knee as well. So I was able to carry on performing a bit, and then boom, both knees went. And since then, I spent a few £1,000s on injections. I've been put forward for knee replacement surgery, but apparently they won't do knee replacement surgery till you're 65.
Why?
Because they don't last forever. There's a 10 to 20 year shelf life on them. So the idea is if you do them at 65, you'll still be able to walk when you're 80. I'm like, well, first of all, I don't intend living that long. And secondly, well, I don't. And secondly, if I've got to sit around, I'd rather be sitting around when I'm 80 with my memories than snailing around and not being able to do what I can do now. And so what happened was it's impacted so I can't work as a hairdresser. I can do one client. I can't stand for hours. I can't perform. I can't go on stage and perform. It's really devastating because, with my Gay Elvis act. So just as all this happened, I got endorsed by Elvis Presley Enterprises. I've not been able to do anything with that. And it's also the perception of, I was at a festival, I won't mention it because I fell out with them quite bad. They are all, about disability and this, that, and the other. Didn't recognise mine, wouldn't recognise mine at all. And it caused a lot of problems because so many people have arthritis that it gets looked over um, uh, as a condition, and it's incredibly painful. It's incredibly painful. I mean, I have to go and have fluid drained off my knees and injections right through, from one side right through to the other side of the knee. And it's what's incredible to me is how quickly it's happened. I now have it in my shoulders and I have it in my hands. So this is all within the last couple of years. I can't open things with this hand. This joint here is completely going. This one is starting to go. My shoulders are going. So I can't, I can do that. But if I do it a couple of times, it will be really painful. I've had to go through, I've just been through a DWP assessment. I have been classed as limited capacity for work. I'm 58.
So what do they think? Just out of curiosity, because DWP is, well, they've always got something interesting to say, haven't they? So what's their assessment?
Well, their assessment is that I don't have to look for work. I'm not expected to work, but I don't want to live my life on benefits. But it's the speed at which that happens. When you work creatively, as we do, we live hand to mouth. I don't have loads of savings. I've always done hairdressing as like a fallback, as a support to my creativity. So when it started to dawn on me, I mean, even now, I still think and I'm still hopeful that I am going to be able to perform because my performing for me is like I'm producer, I'm manager, I'm booker, I do costume, I'm creative. I see you on your social media with your videos you're putting up, they take time to do. All that has gone. It's like my entire life, I feel, has been ripped away from me, and a fundamental part of who I am. It's not just about, I don't love being in front of audience. It's a creative process. It's all the sacrifices I've made as a performer to think to myself, I don't have children, for instance, think to myself, right, okay, I can go and do that and be a bit frugal for the next couple of months. Yeah, it may not be a well-paying job, but I can go and do that because I want to. So I've made loads of sacrifices. When you suddenly lose it and you are then left sat in those sacrifices that you've made, I have no pension, I have no money, I've made no provisions whatsoever. And I always thought, oh, hairdressing, I can always fall back on that. But I can't now because my legs have gone. My door.
One thing I need to ask you just real quick. You mentioned injections. So we had one question from a viewer. Shout out to Vilma.
Oh, Vilma. Hello, Vilma. You asked a question on the last one. We love Vilma.
Big time. She mentioned, have you had, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, hyaluronic injections?
Yeah. I've had, so I've got this is how quickly this has happened. Okay. I've got stage 4 arthritis in both my knees. So that's severe arthritis. That's when you need knee replacements. That's how quick. So I've had.
So the timeline wise, this is over. Obviously, as you mentioned, it was over a course of a couple of years. But do you know in general how long it would take to get to stage 4 versus your own?
I don't. I've obviously had arthritis for years, and not really been. As you get older, things do stiffen up. So, getting down on the floor and stuff like that. But you've seen me performing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm bouncing around all over the place. To go from that overnight, I mean, I couldn't even get in the bath. I couldn't get my leg over the bath. I couldn't bend my knees. And so to answer Vilma's question, so the first injections I had when I first went, I had steroid and cortisone because that just calms it down. But you can't keep having that. I've had hyaluronic acid. I've also had plasma plate injections. Plasma plate is when they take a load of my blood, spin it, draw out the plasma, and re-inject it back into the joint. So the problem is as well with arthritis is you get flare-ups. You get what you call arthritic flare-up. See, my life has changed so much to like last year. So I lost my home. Since the last one of these we did. Yeah, I lost my home as well. I was ahead of myself. I got rid of it before I needed to. And I had to go and live with my mother for 6 months. Because of the condition, I managed to, and something I was getting some hate crime. So I was on police high vulnerability. So I managed, I was in Greenwich and I noticed this place. This is where I am now. I've got a lovely flat. And I noticed it, and my mum has arthritis. She's quite disabled with it. And I thought, well, have a look there. You know, maybe that might be somewhere mum could move. Anyway, when I got home and Googled it, it was over 55 houses. So I thought, well, fuck her. I'm going to apply for it myself. And that's what I did. And they've been brilliant. So within 5 weeks, because of my arthritis, because of the hate crime, I got placed on high priority. So that was at the beginning of November. 2 weeks later, I was asked if I wanted to come in and see a flat. I didn't get that one because I was only 5th on the priority list. And then at the beginning of February, I came in and saw this flat and got this flat. So I've been really lucky. I've been really, really lucky because there's no way that I would be able to, because I can't earn. I'm hardly earning anything. So it's incredible how I've heard people over the years saying, "Oh yeah, I've got arthritis," and I just thought it's creaky joints. It's incredible. I have days when I can't walk. I have days when I can't. Last year when I was living down at my mum's, I would come up one day a week and do some hairdressing clients. I needed to try to earn some money, and it would kill me. And one day I'm coming up on the train and I looked at the weather on my phone and it said snow. And it suddenly dawned on me, how am I going to walk in the snow? Like, I'll never be able to walk on a beach again. I'll never be able to walk in the woods again. I have to walk downstairs backwards. It's incredible. It's incredible how quickly things turn.
I saw a few days ago there was a woman who posted. I guess she was in her mid-20s and she'd become wheelchair bound, and it had happened within the space of a few years. And she was talking about just how much her life had changed, and you know, everything in between that and what she missed, and trying to adjust to that. I remember it's the same thing you always see in the comment section, and it's true. The world is just not designed for people with disabilities in mind. You know, occasionally you'll get like, oh, we've got an accessible toilet or a lift or a ramp or something, you know, but on the whole, it's largely ignored. And as you said, something like snow, which normally you just be like, oh, I'll put my wellies on, I'll just be a bit careful. But now that's like, you've got to plan that out. Yeah. And that was something she said. She said that like everything in her life now has to be meticulously planned out.
Yeah, I'm the same. When I'm out, I'm constantly... So the last couple of months, it was around about towards the end of November, the weather started to turn cold. Nightmare for me. I can go outside for about 5 minutes and then I'm in incredible pain. Because what happens with arthritis is, certainly with the knees, so you have 3 tendons that meet just above the kneecap and go over the knee and then go down the legs. So you've got the pain in the joint, the bone on bone, which is quite bearable. It's not pleasant, but it's bearable. But the problem with it is the tendons. because your body's doing something completely different. So when I touch my legs, my tendons are really painful. So when I go out in the cold, they tighten. And what that does then is they pull on the kneecap. And then, so then you come in and your knees are swollen. You get like, so I've constantly got a bad back because the tendons, the ankle joints connected to the, it's all connected. So my back is constantly stiff. At the moment here, I'm in so much pain on my neck. I had to have a military, last night I had a military massage. A guy out of the military who does massage come round and absolutely pummeled me to try to get some movement in there. It's constant. It's constant. So you've got the bone on bone, which is one thing, but it's all the other stuff around it, which is horrendously painful. See, like going upstairs isn't quite so painful for me, but coming downstairs is incredibly painful. If I'm walking any little slope, hurts my knees really badly. I mean, last week, a friend of mine said, should we go for a coffee? And I've been indoors for a few days. And I said, yeah, okay. And it was cold. And we sat and had a coffee. And I said to her, I don't think I'm going to be able to get back home. And I was yelping in pain with my knees. Yelping in pain with my knees. Once I got in and I warm up, it goes. But it's what I think really the reason why I said to you, I thought this would be an interesting subject to talk about isn't so much the arthritis, it's about how things change so quickly and how do you find anything within that and how to make the most of every moment. Because I've been to some really dark places with this. I've been to some incredibly dark places with this where I don't want to live. Simple as that. I lost all value of my life, of what I am. I lost all value of it because it's like I say, it's not just performing, it's creativity and who you are goes. You suddenly become. My day was becoming. I mean, I've got pain at the moment, but I'm not in as bad a place as I can be. But some days you get up and you think, well, what is today? Can I go over the road and get a pint of milk? Can I get in the shower? Can I do my washing? What am I gonna do? A year and a half ago, I'm on stage in front of 18,000 people, doing what I love doing, sharing, making way for myself, and suddenly I'm on benefits, and I'm classed as somebody that can't work. How do you deal with that? And that's why I said to you, I think it's an interesting subject for a podcast. Because when you're suffering, you are the only person who knows you're suffering. I had a friend of mine phone me up, and she's a very good friend of mine. She's very, very lovely, and I love her to bits. But my very close friend, who sometimes comes and gets shopping for me or calls and just pops in to see me, had gone away for a week. And so another friend of mine called me up. She said, how are you doing? I said, well, I'm okay. I said, I've been indoors all week on my own. I've not seen anyone. I said, I'm bored to death and I feel really low. And she was like, oh, your knees bad? I said, yeah. I said, they're really bad. And she said to me, as the conversation went on, and she meant it nicely, she said, well, why don't I pop over to Greenwich and I'll meet you down by the river and we'll go for a walk along the river. That'll make you feel good. And I'm like, what part of it are you not getting? What part of it are you not understanding? That's a constant thing. That's a constant thing. I'm constantly having to remind people. I can't go to pub because I can't stand up. And so I don't want to sound like a woe is me, because I have worked my way through it. I am working my way through it, but I just felt it was something that needed to be shared, because people have things in their lives that happen and things suddenly change. And that can be very painful and incredibly lonely. And you lose fundamental parts of yourself within that. I don't know who I am. I do not know who I am. All of my life, I've been a performer and a hairdresser. I don't know who I am. I don't know. People keep saying to me, "Oh, you'd be a really good counsellor." And I'm like, right, I'm 58. That takes 5 years to train in. So I'll be, 63, trying to start a new career. How do you find anything? And I got so low. I was offloading onto clients. People had asked me how I am, and suddenly I'd be like, this offloading would come out. And then I'd had a stretch of about 4 months of a lot of pain. And I live right in the centre of Greenwich. I mean, I'm a stone's throw from Greenwich Park. I couldn't get to the park, couldn't go anywhere. And I'm sat in my flat. And I have to say, just a quick shout out to Anchor Housing over 55s. Absolutely amazing. What I get here and the support I get is incredible. It's given me faith in that these things exist for people. A friend of mine, my very close friend, came over to see me one afternoon. I was really low and I must have offloaded. I don't remember the conversation. And she very rarely does this. And she phoned me at 11 o'clock at night and she said, "I'm worried about you. I think you're going to do something stupid." She said, I really, really do. She said, "I'm really worried about you." And I went to bed and I thought to myself, I don't want to do that to my close friends. I don't want them to be worried about me. I don't want them to worry about me. I have to find a way to find some value in where I'm at. I've got to find a way of finding some peace in this, because in reality, the truth is, the speed at which this has come on with me, my mother's 88, she's disabled with arthritis. I've got it genetically. I know that I'm looking at disability and pain. I think within 5 years, I'll need mobility to get around, mobility buggies and stuff. And how do I deal with that? And what do I do? And how do I find some value in my life? And so I decided to put myself in for counselling, which I'm having. And then at Christmas, I had a friend of mine, and he's not an actor, and he's been doing extra work. And he got himself a job on an extra job. He's got no actor training at all. This is what I love. I love people who just wander into things. They make you sick, don't they? You think, I've done all this training. And you just go waltzing in. And he was working as an extra and got talking to somebody, and they needed a guitarist for something. He happens to play the guitar, and he's got a role, not an extra, but a role, a character role in the new Danny Boyle film.
Of course he has.
Yeah. I mean, don't you just want to slit your throat?
There was a guy a few years ago that I met, and I shit you not, he's the same age as me. He's better looking than me. I've been trying to do acting for like 7 years. This guy got fucking modeling contract, bunch of commercials, and like we met each other on an extras thing, and like within a few months he got that, and he was like, "Oh, I'll just give it a punt." What? Yeah, but that's life, isn't it?
Life. It's karma. I think it's to do with our, I'm Buddhist. I think it's to do with our karma.
Well, if that's the case, I must have really shit karma then.
No, not shit karma. No, it doesn't have to be shit karma. It's there for you to transform. It's there for you to transform. Like, for instance, so when I came to see this flat, I came in here and I thought, oh my God, it's like an old people's home. I have to tell you, Christian, my flat is lovely. Anybody that comes in it says, oh my God, it's lovely. I'm really looked after. My rent is very low. It includes my heating, my hot water. I'm totally looked after. Anything I need. I don't pay for maintenance or anything. Massive gardens. I'm really fallen on my feet. For years and years and years, I've bumped into people or met people and talked to them, and they've told me something, and I've walked away and thought, how do you get that? And now I'm one of those people that's saying to people, oh, and they're going, how did you get that? So don't give up. And don't give up. No, don't give up. And so what I did when I heard this about my friend Paul, who got this Danny Boyle thing, it was on Christmas Day.
And in all seriousness, like congrats to him. That's cool that he got that. You know what I mean? Like even though it sounds like I'm bitter and jealous, I promise you I'm not. It's so hard to get opportunities in any creative sphere. So whenever I hear someone has gotten it, I'm like, that's awesome.
Well, you're a better person than me. You're a better person than me, because immediately I start thinking about myself.
Of course,
I said, why not
does.
me? Why
Same
not
here,
me? And I get really angry and really, and at first I'm like, he's got no training. I've got training, why does this not happen to me? But I thought to myself, so you're 32. You probably look at a 22-year-old as quite young, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, I meet him all the time, and I'm like,
so
I'm
when
just
you're 42, when you're 42, you'll look back at a 32-year-old as very young, and when you're 52, you'll do the same.
Probably.
If I dated anyone in their 40s, I would feel inappropriate doing it. That's just my thing. I'm not saying it is inappropriate at all. I don't believe that at all. But for me, I think, it's a bit too young. Like I'm pushing 60 and I'm dating someone a lot younger than me. My nephew's 40 and I see him, as a youngster. And so what it did was I sat there and I thought, what am I going to do? And I thought, I've got a window of time when I can still do things, even if I've got pain while I'm doing it, because there is going to come a time when I'm not going to be able to do hardly anything. I know that. And arthritis is in my family, and my great-great-grandmother was crippled with it. My mum is. And my mum wasn't as bad as I am at my age, and the speed at which this is coming on. I mean, this time last year I wasn't having shoulder problems. And now my shoulders are really, they're catching up with my legs. And so I thought, do I want to get to that stage and look back at where I'm at now and see it as wasted? Or am I going to try to squeeze something out of this? What am I going to do? And so I do have one Elberace gig booked that even if I've got to sit down, I'm going to do it. I want to close the door on my terms. So I'm going to do that. I'm doing a recording with the guy that I do music with. We're going to do at least one more thing. And then I thought to myself, maybe I should put myself back out acting. So I contacted somebody that I worked with years ago, a TV director. And I haven't spoken to her for ages. She'd actually inquired about something to do with Elberace, and it put me back in touch with her. Lovely, lovely director, brilliant director, and a very nice person. And I got on very well with her when I worked with her 20 odd years ago. So I said to her, can I have a chat with you? I said, I'm not coming to you because I'm asking you for work, but I want to know, do you think it's a waste of time? And she was amazing. See, this is why I say never give up. She said to me, you can go into acting any time.
This is true.
She said, it doesn't matter if you've had a break from it. 15 years since I last was putting myself out for acting work, but I have still been performing. 15 years. And
there was a guy I met a few years ago. His name's Gaston. He's a Newcastle-based actor. He's a fantastic guy, great guy. And we were sitting there reflecting on this film that didn't go anywhere anyway. But like we'd auditioned for it, and it's funny how nothing changes in my life. Nothing was going anywhere, and I was kind of lamenting about it. And he said, and I think this is perfect because it lines up with what you're saying. He says, for every year that you move out of contention for one role, you move in contention for another.
Absolutely. Now, going back to what you were saying earlier about niche casting and blah, blah, blah. See, I was told that when I left drama school, because being quite a camp gay man, all anybody wanted me to do was go, you know, like, ooh. I was on Heartbeat and I played this really camp gay character and all that type of stuff. And I don't mind doing that. It's not really challenging for me. But when I spoke to Rebecca, this director, she said to me, and no one's ever said this to me before, she said, you're in a really good casting window. I thought, wow, I've gone into a good casting window. She said, you're in a really good casting window. There's loads of stuff. I said to her, I can't do theatre because I wouldn't be regular. I said, but I wouldn't mind. I'm good at the person that gets a little bit of a comeuppance or the nosy neighbour, a little bit quirky, a little bit comedy, a bit of a wig in a comedy piece, something like that. I'm good at the person, those kind of slightly comedy kind of things, and she said to me, she said, there's loads of stuff comes up for people on TV in your age bracket. She said, the thing is, so I hadn't thought about this. She said, most actors that are your age have been doing it for so long, they don't take those parts. But if you're happy to have one scene or two scenes or stuff like that, that's brilliant for me. That's absolutely brilliant for me. So who'd have thought you could go from being niche casting to suddenly like, no, actually, you're quite, she said, I'd cast you. And it just so turns out, and I'm not going to say who, why, or what, but I really sensed with her that she wanted to help me. And she's given me some really good contacts and used my name.
There you go. If you've got connections, use them.
Casting. And one of the things that I really noticed with it is I said to her, I said, the thing is I'm not really worried about getting work as an actor. I said, when I left drama school, my drama training was good, but the third year, the professional preparation was terrible. We were just told, in my day, you had a black and white 10 by 8 and you sent it off to casting people. I was like an incendiary bomb going off. And she said to me, she said, as a director, she said, I hate it when I just get a general letter. She said, I like it if I can tell someone knows who I am, knows my work. And because I said to her, I said, it's not, for me, it's not about getting the work. It's about my identity. It's about me getting up in the morning and thinking, I'm an actor. I wonder if there's been a casting come in today that's suitable for me. It's because what I've had taken away from me with the arthritis is a huge part of my identity. I don't know who I am. I can't spend my life sat on the sofa. I'm just not that. I'm energetic. That doesn't go because I've got arthritis. The brain that's mulling all this stuff over doesn't go. The desire certainly doesn't go. It's like when you break up with somebody that you don't want to break up with, and you are heartbroken. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put myself back out for acting. A lot's changed since I was out there. I mean, I've got a massive hole in my CV. It's all digital now. Spotlight's digital. I mean, it wasn't when it was a book. I don't have an agent, but that's not the point. The point is being something. Being something. If you give up acting, if you give up your thing, Christian, who are you and what are you? I'd say to you, don't give up on, you'll come into your moment.
If I've learned anything from today's show, it's that it's the same thing I always say. It's about the choices you have in life. And I guess sometimes things that are taken away from you and how you adjust to them. I think it's really refreshing to hear where your head is at as far, because like you're doing exactly what I would do, which is work. Throw your head in someone else. See it more as a transition rather than like, what's the end? It's like, no, it's like, this was my life in one part, now this is my life in the next part. And like, one of the reasons I've always worked so hard, amongst other reasons, is there's something powerful in creating and building, and as you say, it's connected with identity. It's when you wake up in the morning, you say, this is who I am. For me, I've been doing this a long, long, long time, and I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm physically not in a good place, mentally not in a good place. I've sacrificed a lot. I've given everything I have. You know, like most of the time I don't eat properly, you know, if I'm lucky enough to get to eat. That's how my life is. That's where it's at. Anytime I get to do anything remotely creative, I'm grateful. Like the podcast, for example. I've gone through every emotion it comes to when it comes to the podcast, but ultimately I always land on I'm grateful because people such as yourself are willing to sit down with me and talk about life for a little bit, and you know, I always learn something from it. I know my audience always gets something from it. I choose to be positive and keep trying, because giving up to me sounds pointless. I've always said that. Like, as much as it might feel like, what's the point? Where do I do? Where do I go? Etc. At the end of the day, I don't see it as a viable option. Because, you know, as you pointed out, what do I do? Sit on this sofa the rest of my life? Is that what my life is? No. I choose not. I choose to get up, get through the pain, and try and make something of myself, whatever life may throw at me. And you know, I'm sorry to hear about your hardships. I'm sorry to hear that life has dealt you this, but I can relate on some level. The last couple of years of my life it just feels like being in a sinking ship and trying to stay afloat and just fighting constantly. And yeah, people don't see that. People always have a million answers, and sometimes people are deliberately ignorant. Some people just don't get it, and that's okay. You know,
they've got their own stuff.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone sees it. You know, like the stuff I always hear is it's always the same shit. It's, why don't you get a 9 to 5? Why don't you go for an easier life? Da 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 da. And it's like, I've been there, done that, worn the t-shirt. And you know what? Like, life isn't that simple. Even if I wanted to just go out and get like a 9 to 5 now, it's not like they're handing them out like that. You know what I mean? Like, you try finding a job right now. I'm grateful to just have any work. Do you know what I mean? For the jobs that I have, yeah, they suck and I don't want to do them, but I'm grateful to have them, because it's hard times. It really is, and it's only getting harder. And you know, everyone always has an opinion on your life. Everyone's always got something smart to say, like, oh, this is what I would do. This is how I would live. You know, you shouldn't have done this, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, they're not living your life. They don't see it through your eyes. They don't get it. They don't understand that feeling that we have when we're doing what we're doing. And when I say I speak from experience, I don't mean it in a pompous way, like, oh, I know everything. Like, I come from the perspective of, like, Jesus Christ, my flatmate, like, whenever he sneezes, it's like someone's dying. Jesus. I don't know if you can hear that. No, okay. It's like, rah, it's crazy. I love the guy to bits, but I'm like, Jesus. Anyway, I lost my train of thought now. At the end of the day, it's, I guess you have to drown out all those voices and listen to your voice. What does my mindset say? What does my mind say? I don't know what I'm going to do with acting. You know, like yourself, I'm trying to, when I got my haircut, I was like, well, I've not tried to get an agent with short hair. Let's see how that works. Because the whole time I've been doing acting professionally, I've had long hair. So, I'm trying. So far, I've had like 30 plus rejections this year. I've contacted over 130. I've emailed modeling agencies. I've tried to do extra stuff. Like, I don't get nothing. I don't know. The vibe I get is... And it's the same in the music industry. It's the same wherever I go. And again, this is not a woe is me, guys. I'm just saying my experience.
It's the reality of it.
My experience is people don't want me. They don't want to work with me. They're not interested in me. Blah, 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 blah. So I'm left to just do my own thing and sort of be obscure and just, I don't know, figure it out. I don't know. And I don't really know. Yeah, I don't know what to make of that, really. I don't know.
It's tough. It's tough. It's tough. It's really, really tough. And, part of it I can relate to. I have had some successes, but nothing comes easy to me. I have to get down and get dirty for it, always. But being where I'm at now, I would say to you to cherish your creativity and what you have, to look after that part of yourself. And when you're saying what you're saying, then, no one seems to want to work with me. No one, I might just well be in obscurity.
I am. It's not. See, here's the thing as well. I try to always look at things as objectively as I can. Not how does something make me feel, but more, what's the reality I'm faced with? Because it's very easy to sit and live in your own head and be like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm rubbish. But that's not true. I know that's not true. I know I've worked hard. I know I've gotten opportunities. I've achieved a lot over the years, stuff I'm very proud of. I know I have something to offer, and that makes it all the more frustrating and difficult. And I know where you're driving at with this as well. See, the one thing I do agree with that people say to me that I needed to do more, and I completely agree, and I do it now, is practicing gratitude. Like, hey, I get the opportunity to try. I get the chance to try. I'm very grateful to be able to continue to try. Because if anything, what are we learning from today's show? Life can take your opportunity to try like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It will throw curveballs that you're not prepared for.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
And then you've got to try and make these tough decisions. And I think one thing that we share is the sort of the tenacity and the capacity to never give up, no matter what life throws. It's like, well, what's next? I refuse to give up. So what's next? What are we going to do? My question was going to be like, what's your action plan for fighting this? But like, you've already got it. And I think it's incredible, to be honest.
Yeah. My thing is 5 or 6 years time when I'm unable to do anything or whatever that happened.
So you don't know that yet, to be fair.
I don't know that.
It's a prediction.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
I know, what I do know is my wonderful Gay Elvis, as I was doing it, when we talked, when we did the first podcast, that is over. That is over. There's no way I can go on stage and do what I did. And it's not just on stage. It's the packing, the travelling, the on and off trains. When you're doing festivals, like I'm performing on big stages, I've got to get up like almost ladders to get onto the stage. Then there's wires everywhere, and and I've got to get in the costume, and then I've got to get out of it and get home. And I have to think to myself, right, okay, do I have 600 quid spare? Because I'm probably going to need injections after this. Do you know what I mean? So, and then I can't even do what I was doing. And am I prepared to do it in a different way? And my USP with that act is the energy. It's the energy. It's the energy. I'm not a singer, so I can't just stand and sing. No one's interested in me standing and singing some fucking Elvis songs. Do you know what I mean? There's a million of them out there. What makes me different is it's gender fluid, it's funny, it's fast energy. That's gone. And I'm grieving that loss. My next thing is, can I do it in a different way? What can I do with it? I could do, my show's called A Hunk of Mincing Love. I could do a hunk of mincing creaky love. I could make a joke and have an electric wheelchair, and you know what I mean? I could do stuff like that. But do I want to? Like I say, I've got one gig I'm doing. I'm going to see how it goes. But like I say,
I got an interesting idea.
Well, go on.
We threw the idea of understudies around earlier.
Yeah.
We spoke about that. That was interesting. What if you started training a protege?
Yeah, people have said to me, "What about doing something else?" But ultimately,
So what if it was a brand? What if you, instead of
see, so a lot of people have said to me, "Why don't you take it online?" Like TikTok and all that. But I'm old. I don't understand all that. To do it, I'd need to do it with somebody else. I'd need to have scheduling, and I'd need someone to say, right, we're going to do this, and this is what you need to be doing, and posting and how you post and stuff like that. That I've had so many people saying to me, you should take that online. You should take it as, but I would do if I had someone to work with. I don't have anyone to work with on it. In terms of working with somebody else, I know this may sound horrible, but I'm a performer. Do you know what I mean? It's not that I'm not interested, and I do help. There is a guy that wanted to do an Elvis act, and I've helped him with it, and he's actually developing a really good career, and that's great to help him with what he's doing. I'll help anybody, but my loss is I'm a live performer. That's what I do. I'm a live performer, and so it's whether or not I might be able to do one, maybe two things a year where it's like 15 minutes in something. I don't know. And then, but, what I was saying to you, Christian, is to cherish those parts of yourself. Try not to, like I say, when I was hearing you saying, no one wants me, I'm a whatever. Well, that might be true. I'm not going to argue with that. No, I'm not going to argue. Only you know.
No, I know. I just find it funny, like when it was relayed to me back there. It's like nobody wants you.
Yeah, nobody wants you. But that might be true. But does anybody the majority of actors are unwanted because they're not. Do you know what I mean? The point is that you cherish that part of yourself when things get tough. And this is just what I do. When things get tough, it's really easy to hurt yourself with it, and I'm not doing it anymore. I'm going to be packing up. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing that. No, you're not. You're hurt. What you're doing is you're self-sabotaging and hurting yourself with it because I can tell that. Because I can hear it, because I can relate to it.
The difference with me and say other people maybe that are in this position, right, is that I've never achieved success. I don't know what that feels like. Okay? All I've ever known is pursuing and failure. Right? So when people are like, oh, you can't give up, you have to keep going, it's just a bad period. I'm like, well, I've never known a good period. There are good things in my life, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to sit here and be like, oh, woe is me, everything's terrible. That would be a lie. I love my girlfriend very much, for instance. She's the love of my life, right? But my career and the things I'm trying to do, look, let's face it, I'm a 32-year-old man who survives barely on minimum wage and barely eat and support myself, and I'm trying to pursue all this creative stuff, and nothing's working. And I've been doing this a long time, and I'm getting older. I mean, you can physically see, you know, all right, fair enough, it's conditions I have, vitiligo and poliosis, but like I look older. I've visibly aged in the last sort of 3 to 4 years. And yeah, I don't care about any of that. Like, it doesn't bother me, like, because I don't care about the superficiality of the world. Like, I'm happy with me. I'm happy who I am, right? I love who I am, okay? But when I say the world doesn't want me, what I mean by something like that is, with what we do, it's heavily reliant on other people. You know, it's in music, it's, oh, do they like you? Do they want to book you? In acting, it's, do they want to cast you? Do they see anything in you? You know, I remember one one agent I had, actually. I mean, my agents dumped me after less than a year, the other after like less than 2 months, right? But one great thing that one of the casting directors agents said, is that casting directors look at photos of actors like it's Tinder and just go like that the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, until they match something. So they're not really interested in you. And I suppose the whole point of today's show, amongst other things, is the vision of you, building you. Who am I? Who was I? Who am I? Where am I going? You know, it's all about you. I mean, with my show, this show, the Christian Reeve podcast, even though it's got my name on it, I tried to make it about my guests and the topics. And, you know, every now and again I will talk about myself. I'll share stories, but I'll try not to go too much into me, because everyone knows my story. Everyone who listens knows the struggle. And, you know, I share funny rants about things when it's funny. I try not to get too worries me and reflect on bad things anymore, because I think it's just exhausting for everyone. It's exhausting for me. It's exhausting for my followers, my listeners. You know, for the few people that do care, it's like, I don't want to hear it. It's a broken record. And I'm the same. I'm sick of my own voice hearing that, you know. It's not changed. Things could change. You never know what the future holds, right? I'm not going to give up, but I'm also not going to like live in Dululu land and pretend like my life is something other than what it is. I'm very much grounded and like, no, this is my life. This is what it is, you know, and just make the best of things, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you say you're not successful, but I look at your podcast and think, well, I look at your podcast and I think people look at me like I'm successful and I think I'm not. It depends, you know, you don't know what other people view, but.
Well, I look at it like this, right? For example, I've never earned a penny from doing this podcast. I pay out of my own pocket to do this show. I don't know how many people know this.
Yeah.
It's been 6 years, dude.
Okay. Yeah.
6 years of doing this show. I don't think it's going to make any money. It's okay. I set myself a goal of doing it for 10 years. We're 6 years in. I'll achieve that goal pretty easily. We'll see where we're at after 10 years. I don't know if I'll keep doing it or not. I've gotten a lot out of it. I mean, if you go back throughout the years of listening to this show, watching this show, I challenge you to find shows where you didn't learn something. I know I walked away with it always inspired and always motivated and moved. Like, today's show moved me and reminded me of a few things, you know. It's why I do this show. It's powerful, I think. You know, I don't care that only a few people listen. Those few people that listen, it means something to them and it means something to me. You know, I always think about that as well. Like, you might not reach millions of people or whatever, but if you reach a few people, that's just as powerful, you know. And it's a matter of perspective, isn't it?
The thing is, you never know. You never know. And
it's true.
You never, ever know. You know, when I first did my Gay Elvis act, I did it as a joke. I had nothing written. I've told you the story of it. I had nothing written, turned up. I thought, what am I going to do? I'll go on as Gay Elvis. Don't even like Elvis. You know, and suddenly I'm on TV, I'm on the radio, I'm winning awards, I'm you know, blah, blah, blah. Not huge, but going somewhere with it, on a trajectory with it. You know, like, so you never really know. all I can say to you is I think it's really good when you're a performer, creative, to take breaks, to think to yourself, actually, I don't really need to hurt myself here and say, I'm not doing this. That's it. I can just sort of say to myself, okay, this is a downtime. I've got to get the creative juices back again. So let's just have a little break. I mean, I did it when I was a cabaret performer. And, my cabaret stuff was quite successful. I got nominated for a What's on Stage award in 2011. I was up against things like Billy Elliot, the play, my little cabaret show. And, and then I reached a bit of burnout and I thought, right, I'm not going to perform for a year. And I thought, no, I'm not doing anything for a year. I need a break. And that's what I did. I think you have to be brave to do that. But, and then by the time I came back, I was a bit scared, but I was chomping at the bit to do it. And what I would say to you is, but what I've learned through my arthritis is that's not giving me much choice.
Yeah.
And at some point, something will happen to you. Age, you can't do
age, yeah, that's good.
At some point, something will happen. And, you might go through a phase of, I'm this, blah, 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 blah. But you'll come back to it. You will do, and you will do. And you will hit a time of when you start to get successes more in the way that you want them.
Reality is, mate. Like
it happened to me at 52.
Everyone's got a window.
52. It happened to me at 52.
I don't know, man. It's because ever since I met my girlfriend, it's no longer about me anymore. It's about the future and trying to build something. And I don't know how long I have to actually do this and pursue all of this. As much as it's me, it's who I am, and I don't think you get to give up on who you are. What about when I have kids? What about when I have a family? I need to bring in money. I can't be just surviving on minimum wage. That's not going to cut it. It's not good enough.
Yeah, well, maybe A, maybe you don't have kids, or B, maybe you have a partner that understands your creativity and supports you financially. There's nothing wrong with that. Or no, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Because I mean that happens a lot when someone's a performer and they've got a partner.
I think if I look at things from a business perspective, okay, if I was actually in the running for something big, and that it was a risk worth taking, then sure. But I don't know. I just get the vibe that when people look at me, they just don't see anything in me. Whenever I've worked with people, and I don't know if it's because they're being genuine or blowing smoke up my ass, I don't know, but the friends that I've done countless films with, for example, they say I'm a really good actor. Or when I've performed shows and I've been paid to do that, and people have been like, that was a really good set, or whatever. I've always taken compliments with a pinch of salt, and I'm always just take the good and the bad and just and keep moving, right? There's been sliver of time when I felt maybe it's gonna happen, maybe something's gonna happen, right? And it's always been the same thing. Something happens and then nothing. But then not just nothing, dead in the water. And I've had so many of those over the years that it's sooner or later you start, especially when I look at what my daily life looks like, because I mean that's the thing I don't know that people always necessarily talk about when you're an artist. What does your day to day look like? You know what I mean? When you were doing this Elberace Gay Elvis act, the reality is the stage time is the small part of it, really. But all the time that goes into rehearsal, travel, planning and structuring this act and
when you're
all of that stuff.
When you're doing production, booking, right. There's a million hats that you're wearing.
All for this little bit of time on stage when you get to be this person.
Mm.
And it's all worth it, I'm sure, but it's just like, do you know what I mean? Like for me, the podcast, look, this is the easy part. All the other stuff, all the hard work goes into like the planning of it and the release schedule and the social media and all that, right? And I love it. I'll do it. I'll keep doing it. I love it. But like, it's, you know, I'd be lying if I didn't say that I wanted things to work out. But at the end of the day, I think constantly going on about it is just torturous for all involved. You know, like it's come up today. Fine, you talk about it a little bit. You know, today's show is about you and your story, right? We've talked a little bit about me. Fine, okay. You know, I think we can justify it a little bit. I don't know. I always think back to this comment I got in the first like year or two of the show, and it was a hate comment, but I always think about it where someone was like, "No one wants to hear your boring stories, Christian. Shut up and let the other person talk." And I'm
I think it's a conversation. It's a conversation.
Right,
Who knew?
right.
I didn't know when I said to you about, you know, should we do a podcast and I'll tell you about my arthritis. But there's something to learn from other people. And so when you're saying that to me and I'm thinking, okay, I've gone through a breakup with mine. I don't have any choice. You know, I've gone through what I've gone through. Right, I'm not doing that anymore, and all the pain and suffering, and then gradually thinking, oh, no, I'm going to have to go back to it again because it's intrinsically part of my character. But this time, I'm like, I really have no choice. I'm digging my nails in, thinking, right, okay, I'm going to go and do a gig, and if I've got to sit on a chair and do it, because suddenly when you're losing it and you don't have any control over it, there's a completely different kettle of fish.
Can you see now as well why I'm like, if I just keep talking about it, it's complaining? Because I still have the capacity to try. It's almost like I've got gall here even talking about it to you. Like, because
I don't
you're
think
talking.
That. No,
well,
I don't think you should negate people's individuality or feeling, you know, and things are when one goes through life and you don't feel you're getting success, you don't feel you're getting recognition, you think I'm putting in all this hard work and I can't even get my foot on the first rung of the ladder, and when I do it slips off. You know, that's painful. That's painful. That is really, really painful. There's nothing worse than losing your self-belief and stuff like that. It's incredibly painful. I've been there. I've absolutely been there. You know,
do you know what I mean? Like, what was the driving force for you to keep trying?
It wasn't so much a driving force. It's more about, you know, what makes us who we are. You know, why is one person a doctor? Why is another person a mathematician? Why is another person a bus driver? Why is that? Why am I a performer? It's not because I don't like being in front of an audience. That's the worst thing for me. That's not why I do it. I don't need applause. I'm creative, and my creativity comes out in performance. It doesn't come out in painting or sculpture or writing a book. It comes out in performance. That's my individuality, my character, my karma. It's everything that I come with, everything that I am. It's my language. Yeah, okay. It's, you know, being a performer is something slightly different to being a banker. But there's something that drives the banker. I mean, I look at that and I'm like, oh my God, you've got a real job. I find it fascinating, other people's lives. Why am I the way I am? But unfortunately or fortunately, I am that way. Yes, it's lovely to get success. It's lovely to have that, but you can't keep hold of success. It moves very quickly.
Sure, but it reinforces what you do. Do you know what I mean? Like when I talk success, what I mean is just, I've said this many times, my goal has always just been this: to earn a living from creative endeavors.
Yeah.
That's it. That's
it.
Yeah. If I could do that, I'd die a happy man.
Yeah, well, I only started doing that when my cabaret work, I didn't really make any money out of that. So I had my daytime job, and I'd do gigs as and when I felt like doing them. And I'd do them and creatively keep going, keep working on my material, and it gave me something.
Yeah.
As an actor, I had a few jobs that paid, but I did a lot of stuff. It wasn't really a sustainable career. Elberace, my Gay Elvis, is the only thing that has really brought in money. And like I say, at 52, that started. I didn't know when I went and did it as a joke that I was going to end up doing it. I had no intentions of it being anything more than I haven't written anything. I'm going on stage tonight. I'm going to do this. That's what happened. But if I had, on the numerous of times when I've said, right, that's it, I'm not doing it anymore, blah, 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 and then I go for this hurting period and blah, 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 and then come back to it, had I stuck at that, I never would have had that. I never would have had that experience. The galling thing for me is that there's still stuff to squeeze out of it that I can't. That's the really hard thing for me. It's a horrible feeling of that slipping through your fingers. I could feel it slipping through my fingers. I've still not 100% come to terms with it. When I have a good day with my arthritis, I'm thinking, oh, I could go and do that. I think I could do it. You know, maybe I will. Maybe maybe I'll take that gig and then I'll do that gig the week after, and then next day I'll have a bad day and think, oh no, there's no way I can do that. There's no way I'm going to be able to do that. This gig I'm doing in March, I'm sort of like, I'm doing it potentially because I haven't done a gig for ages. I just want to have a go. If I have to sit down, I have to sit down. Is it going to be the last one I do, or am I going to do it and think, okay, well, I might be able to do that again at some point? But I'm not absolutely doing any absolutes or finals. I'm just thinking, well, it will be what it's going to be. And
this is kind of like the real ultimate test, really. This gig coming up.
I had a really horrible experience at the last festival I performed at. And I won't go into details just in case they watch this, because I don't want to come across like I'm slacking them off. But they were not pleasant, and nothing to do with performance or anything like that, because I didn't really get to do my performance. But I was very hurt by it afterwards, and I don't want that to be my final experience.
Right, I understand.
I don't want that to be my final experience, and I have an audience of people that are saying to me, "Are you going to perform?" And I'm saying, "Okay, well, come along. I'll do what I can. I'll do what I can, and if that's enough, so be it. And if it's not, I'll think, okay, that's in the can now."
I have a feeling, for some reason, that it will go really, really well.
I think it'll be a joyful event. Even if it goes, even if it goes really well, afterwards, what am I like physically? Am I going to be able to do that again?
I think your assessment is. I mean, look, I'm not a physician. I don't know, right? Maybe I'm talking out of turn here, but I get the feeling that a lot of the time when it comes, because you always hear about people who live. I've had people on the show before who have had conditions that are pain involved, right? And they still live their lives. And like there was a guy on my show who did fucking skydiving, and he had like really, really terrible pain in all of his body, like everywhere, and he was fucking skydiving, dude. Like, maybe this is one of those situations where it's like you could do it, but it's gonna be a lot of pain and training in it, but you can do it. But
I'm at the gym. I'm at the gym.
Right,
I'm trying to build my muscles. I'm in total preparation for it.
This is what I mean. Maybe there is a chance. Yeah, all right. You can't do it like 10 times a month. Maybe it's got to be like once or twice a month.
I couldn't do an hour's show, for instance. I couldn't do an hour's show.
Right, but that's okay. You know, like it's knowing the limitations, but also not completely giving up either, and finding the fine line between.
Yeah.
You know, and only you know that as well.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah. The thing with performing is as well is it takes a lot to get the ball in the air. Once the ball's in the air, and you can keep it up in the air, and then generally with creative personalities, certainly when you're having to, like yourself, like myself, create your own stuff, eventually you run out of energy and the ball drops again, and then you got to get it up in the air again. And that's my big issue with it is I'll get the ball up in the air for one performance, but then I've got to get that ball up in the air again, the drive and stuff like that. But no, I'm committed to doing it. I'm going to go and do it. I'm going to have some fun, and I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, please do. I think we'd
Yeah.
all love to know
Yeah.
how it's going to go.
If I get a little bit of video, I'll send it through.
Where is the performance?
It's
gonna
just I don't normally do pubs, like I do
Okay.
festivals, and my
Yeah,
big
yeah.
thing. I mean, that's the majority of my performance at festivals, corporate. But so I don't normally do pubs, but there is a pub where I live called Pelton Arms. It was the pub they used for the Nag's Head in Only Fools and Horses. And
Ah,
if you Google it, it's considered to be not the best, but one of the best live venues in London. And it's a really lovely pub in Greenwich. And I did a gig there a few years ago, and it's a straight pub, went down really well. And then I did another one about 6 months later, and it was, the whole place was, like up and having real fun. And then, of course, knees are gone. And Jeff, who runs it, really nice guy, and he's had his own issues with joints, youngish guy, hip replacements and stuff like that, had a horrendous accident in his youth. And I've spoken to him and I just said, I want to do a tryout. And he said, well, come and do it here. So I said, I'd love to. So it'll be what it's going to be. But I don't, like I say, I don't normally do pubs. I like pubs. I like pub performing. I like the rowdiness and the hecticness and so much going on. I don't like it with a quiet audience or something like that. I like festivals, but on a festival stage, you're miles away from the audience. You're miles away from the audience. You just feel like a prat. Whereas pubs, everybody's close up and kissing you, and you can hear all the chatter and this, that, and the other, and you're getting your bum pitched and all that. It's messy. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, it'd be fun. I'll do what I can do. Yeah, but so that's why I wanted to share arthritis.
yeah. Thank you so much for sharing the story. It's been very powerful, and I'm just happy to hear you're not giving up and that you're pushing and you're really working at this. Do you know what I mean? It's inspiring stuff to hear, to be honest.
I'm starting to work it out. It's like I say, the important thing for me is if and when I end up unable to do, I mean, I'm not going to be like paralyzed. But where I think, right, I really cannot perform anymore, or I really cannot do that anymore, that I don't look back at this time and with regret and think I wasted that bit, because although I was in pain, I could still do it. I could still do something. Maybe not as I want to, but I could still do something. So is to fulfill that time. And I suppose I would say to people, which is what I've been touching on with yourself, I suppose, no matter what you do, life does change, and life can be cruel. And you have to find the value within that. And it is such a cliche to say, make the most of it now. But, things change. Things change very quickly. And it is really important to embrace where you're at and don't give up.
Thank you so much, James.
Lovely
I really,
to
really
talk to you,
appreciate it.
Christian. Yeah,
It's
thanks for
always a
having me.
pleasure. It's
Thanks
an
for
absolute
having
pleasure, mate. And to all the listeners of the Christian Reeve podcast,
And
I hope you
Vilma.
found this.
Love you,
Yes,
Vilma.
and Vilma. Yes,
Love you,
everyone
Vilma.
listening. To all the listeners of the Christian Reeve podcast, thank you so much for watching and listening. I hope you found it as inspiring as I did. As always, be safe, be well, and as James said, never give up.